It's okay to not be all things to all people when they have expectations on you. And the same thing is right for yourself when you believe you need to be something, because what can happen is we create our identity. And I've been through this trap before.
Today's guest is no stranger to controversy, no stranger to courage.
Celebrity chef Pete Evans has had his Facebook page permanently deleted for posting claims about dangerous COVID-19 vaccines.
He's been cancelled, he's been criticised, he's been ridiculed, he's been censored. From the height of mainstream fame as one of Australia's top chefs and TV personalities to becoming a fearless voice of freedom, truth-seeking and sovereignty, Pete Evans has walked away from the matrix and is now also walking his own truest path.
Wherever you are now is exactly perfect, because your life story and the choices you've made have absolutely been perfect to where you are right now.
Pete Evans is not only a mastermind and a medicine man, but he's a loving father and is a figure and a voice.
Just be you. Be you in all your unique genius, and trust in your intuition that knows exactly the choices that resonate deeply in coherence with who you are. I did that for my own personal reasons and personal gain. I am not a victim. There is something for me to learn and grow and discover from this.
Welcome to the Dr Espen podcast. I'm your host, Espen, and today's guest is no stranger to controversy, no stranger to courage. From the height of mainstream fame as one of Australia's top chefs and TV personalities to becoming a fearless voice of freedom, truth-seeking and sovereignty, Pete Evans has walked away from the matrix and is now also walking his own truest path. And it wasn't easy. He had to go through the fire to do so, but he stood tough and he's held his ground and he's truly walked the path of what he believes. He's been cancelled, he's been criticized, he's been ridiculed, he's been censored. And we know that still, even though people are against us and say things against us and what we believe, even though we stand our ground, if it's something that we truly do believe in, all will be well in the end. Pete Evans is not only a mastermind and a medicine man, as far as I can see, we're using foods and frequency, but he's a loving father and is a figure and a voice. So I want to say it's a very special thank you to the show. Mr. Pete Evans, how are you today, buddy?
Mate, thank you so much. What a beautiful introduction, and same back to you and everybody that's watching. G'day.
Thanks, man. I remember our last interview was maybe about 3 years ago or something like that. And I was in the middle of you going through the fire that mainstream media was throwing at you. And I remember saying to you that if you're not crucified, you're not on purpose. Because I remember I learned that many years ago when I was going through some tough times, nothing compared to what you went through. But it was really beautiful to see how you held it. What's been happening in the last couple of years? Where are you at? What's Pete Evans up to these days?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing, to be honest with you. Sharing recipes. As a chef, that's what I like to do. It's, I think it's part of my DNA. It's something that fulfills me. Not only just the sharing of it, but my wife and I mean, my wife cooked for me last night, and it's such a gift to be able to receive food when it's cooked for you. And the same thing, being able to share food. We take turns at cooking for each other, and sometimes we collaborate together and cook at the same time and collaborate in the kitchen. And I don't think it's something to be underestimated, the power of just sharing a good meal together and something that's cooked with intention and do you want to be delicious? And I know it might sound a little corny that food can be so powerful, but it's something that I've learned and we've learned over the years that, just having that awareness about where we shop for our food, how we cook it, whether we've got some music playing or our intention that goes into it, can have such profound effects on us. So I've been doing that. I've also been writing cookbooks again. I've releasing 3 this year. 2 have been released so far, and a third one coming out in November in the United States, called the Maha Cookbook, which is pretty cool. It's with Tony Lyons and Skyhorse. And if you're not familiar with them, Tony Lyons is the CEO of Skyhorse Publishing, and they released Bobby's book about the real Anthony Fauci, and he's sort of stepped into the space of publishing authors' works that, similar to myself, have been either cancelled in the mainstream environment. So that's pretty cool to have a Maha cookbook coming out. I just released one on the similarities between Bitcoin and hodling your health or looking after your health. And the one earlier in this year was called Healthy Food for Healthy Kids, which was with Children's Health Defense over in the United States, also with Skyhorse Publishing. So it's been a wonderful year to have those creative expressions flowing once again into the marketplace, and also been done a lot of podcasts. I like interviewing people, and so I've been doing that still. I'm up to probably 500 podcasts with wonderful people that have been on the show, and like I'm doing now, I've sort of stepped back into the position of being interviewed, which I sort of took. I took a couple of years or a few years of not really entering that space because it just didn't feel like the right time. Whereas now it feels like it's enjoyable to sit in this space and have a conversation with people like yourself. So thank you, brother.
It's a privilege, mate. Like I said, we run in some of the similar circles, and I know how sacred you work with the land, how you operate, how you live, somewhat, and also your intention behind what you do. And so I'd like if you can, because you talked a little bit about the cookbooks. I think the Maha cookbook, I see right now the synchronicity of you being on that side, being published by them, the disruption that's happening, final, RFK Jr., like Bobby Jr. is coming in and actually pointing fingers at the things that we need to point fingers at. He's shutting down Big Pharma in many ways. Like, it's like we watched this insane corruption before our eyes during COVID. And now we're seeing some of it starting to be cleaned up. And I can see you right on that side there, bringing food into that. I think this is so beautiful. Can you tell us about food and frequency? You mentioned something, you and your wife, sharing, cooking for each other and making it almost sounded like sacred. We know that much of the soil has been depleted. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe from past research, there was something like, there should be 52 minerals in the soil. We now have an average of 3 mpk, I think. But the soil is deficient, the plants are deficient, the food is deficient. How do we keep it healthy? How do we keep the frequency sacred and the food that we serve to our loved ones and our children at the highest possible quality? What are some of the practices that you follow that you might be infusing into these cookbooks?
Yeah, for sure. It's a big question, and it's something I've contemplated for quite some time, probably over the last 15 years, because as I was introduced to this, that food can be medicine, like my T-shirt is saying here, everything that you said is true about soil depletion and that we're bombarded with all of these different chemicals that we never used to have in our environment. And that can't be debated, right? And we have the choice to, and I've been through this roller coaster of a journey. Once you understand what is happening and what has happened, that we can either fall into many different ways of viewing it. We can either become a victim to it and live in fear and be so judgmental and worrisome about everything. I mean, I get emails all the time from people. I had one this week. I just saw your recipe book, Pete, and I noticed that you are promoting eating seafood in the books. Now, and this person said, from my research, all the seafood that's available to us has some level of toxic or microplastics in them. What do you recommend I do? And that can be extrapolated into that organic foods have now lost some of their vitality from what is ever being sprayed into the air or the pollution or whatever it is. Same thing could be said about cattle or game foods, that they are compromised in some way, whether it be through antibiotic use or whether it just be through their their geographical location in relation to other farms that are around them and surrounding areas, and of course the pollution and the soil and everything. So we can either go into the state of fear or not trusting where our food source comes, which is completely fine if that is your journey. And I never judge anybody on their journey. Where I like to reside and where I've gotten to at this particular point in time, and it took me quite some time to get here, is not being in a state of fear, not ever distrusting my body in all aspects of life. I have the firm belief that no matter what I am exposed to and how I choose to live my life, that this beautiful vessel we call the human body knows exactly what to do at all times. When you speak to people like Dr. Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief, he outlines, and so many others outline, the power of our belief system over every part of our reality. So I have the belief that no matter where I am, no matter what I eat, no matter what is going on in the world, that I have the belief that I can it's not that I can overcome, it's just that I can be in coherence with everything at all times. And when I feel out of coherence or out of harmony or out of balance, then I come back to where in my life choices have I either overextended myself or underperformed in some areas? Have I been staying up too late watching Netflix? Have I drank too much alcohol? Have I chosen not to shop at the farmers markets? Have I chosen to live in the social media world of doom scrolling and seeing everything that's happening? So I always bring it back to me as the full accountability and responsibility for how I see myself and behave in this reality. So in saying that, I still make conscious choices to source my food from the best sources that I can. And sometimes that isn't always possible, right? I travel. Like this year, I've traveled to the United States a couple of times. I've been to Europe. And obviously, I don't have the creature comforts of the local farmers markets to feed myself, So I go into a state of complete and utter trust. Like, I'll give you an example. I was in Czechoslovakia or Prague recently in Czech, and I just had this hankering to go out to the local pub and have a schnitzel. And normally I don't eat gluten, and I make sure my food is from regenerative farm practices. But I was like, I'm in Prague. I'm going to go out and have a pork neck schnitzel from the local pub, and I researched who does the best schnitzel in Prague, and I sat there, and as the food came, I set the intention, I am going to get as much nutrient density out of this food as I can. And this is exactly what my body is wanting at this particular point in time, without fear, but with complete appreciation and enjoyment for the setting that I was in, that I put myself in to appreciate this type of cuisine, which the locals love, And it was great. I didn't get problems with my digestion or anything like that afterwards, because I think I sat in there with complete gratitude and complete accountability of my actions. And I know that 99% of my choices are focused on intelligent, conscious choices for the majority of my time, right? Whether it be food or how I interact in this reality. So it's not about allowing leeway or cheat meals or anything like that. I think it's just the intention that we have and the awareness and the conscious awareness that we have with our choices that we make. And I'll give you a great example. I've got friends that look up at the sky and see the chemtrails, and they believe that it's poison that is being sprayed and that it is hurting them. Whereas I look at it and I see it for what it is. I'm like, okay, well, that is happening. Can I control it? Can I stop it? At this particular point in time, no. Am I going to let it affect my day-to-day belief in myself to how I'm going to function in this thing? Will I be in a state of fear and anxiety and stress and victim mentality that can alter who I am in this reality at this particular point in time? Or can I acknowledge the awareness of that is happening, that it's perfect at this particular point in time in human history for whatever reasons it may be? And maybe in 10 years' time, that has come into the mainstream consciousness to be seen and then to be dissolved, like what you said with Bobby Kennedy at the start. Who would have thought 5, 6, 7 years ago that we would be having a conversation this week in public Congress sittings in the United States where they are exposing the lies and the manipulation that the CDC played in relation to vaccines and autism. It's the best script that's ever happened, but we just have to have trust and acceptance that these things sometimes take time for them to come full circle, for the public awareness, for us to then get to go, perhaps that wasn't the best idea, placing all our trust into an external organization for our safety. And now, what is going to transpire from this that we've gone through? And I believe the same thing will happen with chemtrails, with everything that's happening on the face of the planet at the moment, with the mainstream media apparatus or the narrative that creates division. Even though it's quite shocking for a lot of people and quite overwhelming, can we sit in a state of trust that this is absolutely perfect, what is going on at this particular point in time, and set aside our expectations of a timeline for these things to resolve and just go through the journey as it is happening? Sorry, I don't know if that answers your question or not. I went on a bit of a spiel there.
Mate, it absolutely did. And I'm so glad that you went there, because I remember I fell for the trap, so to speak. When, the scamdemic was taking place, I was awake enough to see what was happening. Now, not that we'll make this conversation about that's not the point, but I just want to emphasize something that you shared, because hear what Pete, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is, yes, they're spraying chemicals in the air. We know that they're doing that, but there's two ways to respond to it. One is, I'm in fear, I'm a victim, this will poison me. And as such, you're being poisoned because it's your belief, your reality, you're creating it with your consciousness. The other one is, yes, they're spraying, but I have the power that my body is innately designed to overcome this, and no problem at all. It's already done. It won't even touch me. So there's two different ways to react. And the reason why I bring up, the scamdemic some years ago is because I found myself going down the rabbit hole, but not down the rabbit hole in a good way. I ended up feeling anxious and stressed, and it was fear-based. And so then I came to the realization, and I shared this with many of my students, that going down the rabbit hole is fine, but going down the conspiracy rabbit hole, if it's fear-based, that means you're still, a victim of it or not in power or control. And then if there is such a thing as an agenda trying to shut us down, then they still win. So to be educated, to be smart, to be conscious, but then to choose to respond and be aware with love. And I love how you kind of talk about the middle way. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's just what it is. I'm in acceptance and in gratitude for what is, and we'll see what happens in the future. I just want to drop that in. Listeners, viewers, what does this mean for you? Have you looked at the chemtrails, looked at the mainstream media news, looked at things around you, and from a place of fear? And if you have, like I used to, what are you deciding in this moment to change it to? Is there anything you want to add, Pete?
Everybody is completely unique, and I respect everybody's journey. There's people like Bobby Kennedy out there that are what you would call fighting, say, the pharmaceutical system. And that is so fantastic that there's people in that space that are doing that. And I also believe it's fantastic there's people, I guess, on the other side that have perpetrated these things as well, right? Because without that happening, the Bobby Kennedy thing probably wouldn't have happened either, for this to transpire and for this to be in our reality at this particular point in time. So everybody has their life's journey of their creative expression and free will to create their reality. And it's fascinating because I'll use myself as an example. So during the pandemic, as you called it, or scamdemic, I took a position to express myself creatively about what was happening. And because I've done that, or did that, the amount of people that have come to me to jump on board other issues that are happening in the world, whether it be the wars that are going on in Ukraine or the Gaza Strip. Some people have the expectation, because I spoke out about that I need to speak out on other things, or the chemtrails, or the rallies or the protests that are going on in Australia over the last 6 months or 3 months or coming up next week. And it's fascinating when you take the observational viewpoint of what other people expect you to do. Right? And you might have experienced this. The people watching this might have experienced it on a similar level from their family members or from their friends or from their colleagues. Like, you've done this before, so you should be doing this. It's like, well, maybe not. Maybe that doesn't resonate for me at this particular point in time. Right? So where I'm going with this is, it's okay to not be all things to all people when they have expectations on you.
Wow.
And the same thing is right for yourself when you believe you need to be something, because what can happen is we create our identity. And I've been through this trap before. The ego creates the identity, the celebrity chef, blah, blah, blah. And I've been offered experiences like being cancelled to lose my social media following of 2 million people, because I attach my identity to that reality of Pete's got a big platform. He's going to reach people. He's going to change people's minds. As soon as I got to that point, it was taken away from me, which was the most liberating, beautiful experience I've ever had, because it was like, oh, okay. Are you that person? Can you adapt to this situation where you have created this identity for yourself? And I used to get off on it, to a degree, like we all do. Whether because there's a part of us that likes to be right. And when we create the space or that ideal where we make ourselves right about something, it automatically makes somebody else wrong. And it was a very humbling lesson for me, which is where I'm at now. And it hasn't been the easiest process for me, but to remove judgment as much as I can at this particular point in time with the tools I have on everybody else's journey, including my own. That's where I reside at the moment. And it's a work in progress. And I'm enjoying the adventure of this, because I do fall back into my old patterns of judgment and wanting to be right and making other people wrong. And I know, and my wife talks about this a lot, and she studied this a lot, and I thank her very, very deeply for this. There's a saying that goes, whatever you judge will keep coming back to you until you stop judging it. And I'll just drop that in there as a seed for people to water if it resonates for them, because having experienced myself in the controversial conspiratorial truth freedom movement, what I have witnessed in that and observed and somewhat judged in that in the past is I can see that it can be a trap to fall into to create our identity. And
Mm-hmm.
I have done this. And what my observation and experiences is that once you're in that space, you start to look for everything to back up that belief. And you'll start sharing all the conspiracies, all the problems in the world, all the agendas, all the narratives. It's like, as someone has always said, if you've got the hammer, you're always looking for nails to bang in. And if we look around the world at the moment, there are so many nails in which we can keep banging. But perhaps those nails have always existed and they probably always will exist for us. And then it's a choice. Is this how I choose to live my life, always banging at these nails that will keep popping up? And I'm not saying that's a bad path, if that is your creative expression. Like I said, Bobby's in that fight with pharmaceutical, and that's probably his perfect pathway. I don't know. I'm not that man and I can't judge him and I don't want to judge him. But the observation is, wow, his family history, his ancestral lineage, no wonder he's in that position. There is probably things for him to discover in this experience for him to transcend through to get to that state of neutrality or whatever it may be. I know I'm maybe not making a lot of sense here. It's such an interesting way that we can, I guess, analyze ourselves in this experience as to how do we wish to express ourselves as we go on. And I'm at the moment really wishing to just have as much joy, have as much fun, not be bogged down or weighed down with everything that's going on there, and not turning my back to it or turning my head to say it doesn't exist. But how much power does that have over my day-to-day expression?
Yeah. Woo! It feels like it makes perfect sense. Judgment. I love what your wife shared about judgment. Whatever you continue to judge will keep coming at you until you stop judging. I think this is so important. I mean, from a quantum physics perspective, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. The analogy of hammering down the nails, and once you've hammered them down, they pop back up again. Yeah, if that's really what you feel is the highest, greatest, most beautiful expression of your life, then do it. I, for one, similar to you in some ways, will stand up when I need to stand up. Someone told me some years ago, to say that you're a warrior means that there is a war, or at least that you're preparing for it. And I went, wow, do I want to go to war? The answer was no. I can go to war. If I need to go to war, if I have to go to war, I'll go to war. But I will not be creating that in my reality because I want and I live for peace. I love this analogy. It almost sounds like the middle way from the Buddhist teachings, that it doesn't matter if you perceive it to be good or bad or pleasurable or painful, if you can find that middle path and be not even in acceptance, but even in gratitude, and create and cultivate your own experience of beauty within the current existence, is freedom.
And I won't do it any justice, but there's the old parable or saying, I think it's in the I Ching. I don't even know, to be honest with you. I'm not great at doing this sort of stuff. But the old parable where the master keeps saying, perhaps, like the atrocities that it's happening, this is really bad for us. And he would say,
that's a great one.
Perhaps, and then something bad happens and perhaps, but then it because that happened, the magic appeared, and just keep going back to maybe or perhaps. We don't know the ripple effect that this situation will have. Like today, I first thing I did today, or not the first thing, but when I hopped onto my phone and checked out the news events of the day, Charlie Kirk, I don't know if you're aware of him, but young fella, 31, got shot and passed away, got assassinated. Yeah. And, heartbreaking. And then looking at comments, I mean, it was over all the different social media pages that I follow. Heartbreaking, devastating. And then the question, then I come back to it is like, wow, why has this happened at this particular point in time? And I don't even have the words to put into it, but I go back into this state of trust, even though it's horrific and tragic and heartbreaking for his family and everybody out there that's associated with him. Like, I feel the pain of that. I've got tears in my eyes. It's like, this has happened. It couldn't have happened any other way because it has happened. This is the reality. question is why? What will be the ripple effect of this in the coming years or decades because this has happened? And I take that view of everything. I took that view during COVID. I would say to some friends that were really struggling in this, I said, can you not detach, but can you trust that this is happening because it is happening? It wouldn't have happened if it's happened. It's the reality. Like, can you go into a state of trust and acceptance and maybe surrender to that this is real, this is here. And we do not know the ripple effects that this will have. And we just illustrated some of the ripple effects, even though what happened during that period was tragic and heartbreaking and devastating for so many people. I don't deny that, and I don't diminish anybody's feelings and emotional journey through that period because it was harrowing. But perhaps it had to be that tragic and harrowing for certain elements of the community. And perhaps we still haven't really received the ripple effects of that particular period in time. And everybody will have a different experience from that particular point in time, as they will today from what has happened, and they will tomorrow from what will happen tomorrow. And I guess it's a Taoist or a Buddhist point of view, and I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form. It's just this seems to be the best path for me, and it may not be the right path for anybody else. You know, I'm not telling people to be in this state of reality, but this seems to be the place that I wish to reside in, and that may change in time. As you said, if something happens where I feel like I need to put my suit on, perhaps I will again. And I always have that question mark. I'm not closed off to the potential of my being and my expression. Maybe I won't. I don't know. It's a mystery, and I like that.
I couldn't agree more. The mystery, the brain or the mind tries to always know what's happening and understand everything. So I would say that's the beauty of the mystery. The soul would be bored if we knew everything. And, the old saying here goes, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And I love being prepared for something that may arise to protect my family. But the point is that we're in the garden.
Yeah.
We're in the garden, baby. We're not at war. Yeah. Unless you choose to be or have to be at war, depending on where you live in the world, of course. But yeah, I think the analogy is pertinent. Thank you for helping us remove judgment today, Pete. This is really powerful. I find myself judging also, and I am so grateful to be reminded of these simple but very powerful tools. And I will continue to look at where I'm judging others, myself, and just remove it. And as my friend Dr. John DeMartini says, not come to acceptance only, but go above acceptance into gratitude for what is. This has really been a great conversation. I want to ask you, a lot of people see, actually, before I move to the next question, I want to ask this. So I love asking people, that when they say, when you lose, metaphorically, don't lose the lesson. You have been through a very difficult time. Some would say the ego would feel, oh God, I had this platform, 2 million viewers, this name, this image, and it all got some of it got crushed and something new awakened. If we were to say you've had that painful experience, your wife by your side, like such a sacred experience bringing you together, I'm sure. But if we were to say, okay, when someone goes through such a heartache, such a difficult time, what is the ultimate gem? I feel like you kind of might have explained or taught us a little bit about it in terms of acceptance and love and the middle path. But I like if you can share with the listeners and viewers, out of all of that, whatever that was, what was the diamond in the dirt?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I'll get to the diamond in the dirt. Just listening to you talking about, going through the fire or the losing of certain things, whether it be social media following or businesses or finances. When I perceived that and was going through that, it didn't seem like a big deal to me because, and not to compare, because comparison can be a trap as well, but I have great health and had great health through that process, through that and before that and even now. Whereas I observe and witness people really struggling with mental health issues in their life. I see people struggling with major physical health issues in their life, losing loved ones. And it's fascinating because for a lot of people, what I've been through, that really can trigger them to like, that was a big deal. Like, that would be a big deal for quite some people. And I guess it comes down to our perception of what our perceived or believed fears are or insecurities are in life. Like, being ridiculed in the public, that's not a fear for me. There's a part of me that probably gets off on it a little bit. Yeah, truth be told, a sensational headline where they use a crazy photo of me. There's a part of me that's like, yeah, I'm still living rent free in that reality that I'm not a part of anymore. Like, and so those, I guess the financial side of things, losing a lot of where I was set up, that sort of the bottom fell out. And that was sort of for me, I was like, oh, fuck, I've got child support, I've got mortgages, I've got my daughter's at private school, I've got looking after my mother with my brother and all these sort of responsibilities. And the rug got pulled out from underneath me. That was more, I guess, something that I needed to adapt to more so than losing the social media following or being publicly ridiculed. That's like a fly buzzing around, it's there. It can't hurt me. It's a little annoying, but they don't have any teeth really. But the financial thing for me was more of a oh fuck moment. Like, how are you going to accept this, surrender, adapt to this reality where you have responsibilities and commitments? Can you transform this into a positive? And it's so fascinating because it I won't say forced me, but it invited me to explore different options out there. And one of the things that I discovered through this adaptation process was Bitcoin treasury companies, understanding that our existing financial system, and I don't think if I was cancelled and deplatformed and lost most of my business opportunities or partnerships, that I would have gone down this education platform to understand what Bitcoin represents. And everybody has a very emotional viewpoint on Bitcoin. Like, I thought dietary information was emotionally charged. When I started talking about Bitcoin, that was like, wow, okay, this is another emotional belief system or trigger. And I don't like to use the word trigger, but there's something in this that really has people not divided, but there's an emotional charge to this word called Bitcoin, or what this invention is. So I'm grateful for that because it took me down a new learning path, and perhaps we're getting to this gold nugget that you started this question with. So when these things happen to us, and they don't happen to us, I created this reality, and that's a big pill for me to swallow, right?
I'm so with you there, bro.
I created this. Nobody did this to me, and that was the first big humble piece of the pie I had to eat. And as you know, in the quantum world, everything is our creation to a degree. So I take full accountability and responsibility. I did not need to speak up. I did not need to post that meme. I did not have to post that content which got me in trouble. I did not have to put certain what I would call healthy products onto my website and be an affiliate to, which then the TGA could fine me for because they had made claims that peppermint oil can help with this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. I did that for my own personal reasons and personal gain. So when we reside in that, I've created this, I am not a victim. There is something for me to learn and grow and discover from this. That's where I like to reside in. So, but going back to it, what's the gold nugget? And for every single person, it is something completely different, right? And as I said, I feel like I've had a pretty easy trot through this existence so far, whereas some people would look at that on my journey and go, fuck, I wouldn't want to go through that public humiliation and ridicule on such a large scale, whereas I don't mind that to a degree, or it hasn't affected me. So where we can find our insecurities, and one of them was the financial piece of the puzzle for me, right? Then we can understand why we have created that situation for us to be able to delve deeper and trust in that we will discover or remember the next growth part for us, and whether that's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, or a combination of all of them. So I never thought 5 years ago that losing all of this would take me down a path of, I guess, more financial security for myself and my family from losing everything by discovering what Bitcoin represents and what it offers. And I don't put all my eggs into one basket and say this is it, because I've done that before and been very humbled by it.
Of course.
But what it's allowed me to do is to learn new skills, new tools, new information. And lo and behold, I end up releasing a book and speaking at the Bitcoin conference in Vegas and Prague this year. Something I never thought I would do. And I've met such beautiful people from this experience of being cancelled, losing the businesses, to discovering this and being on a new trajectory that I never could have scripted, even though I did script it, but have the idea of where that would take me. And I say that because for each and every person, it's very different. When I started talking about food as medicine, many of the people that I was introduced to and got to form relationships with were parents that their children had become autistic through whatever it may be. It could have been through a medical intervention. It could be through whatever has created this for their situation. And so many of them were so grateful for the experience that happened to them, because it allowed them to, as I was just talking about, go on a new adventure to create new information for themselves, or rediscover or learn new information that has dramatically changed not only their lives, but their family and community's lives into this beautiful new way of being. And it was amazing because so many of them, even though it was a traumatic and challenging experience for them, they remained so grateful for the experience that had happened to them. And whereas other people, and again, not to compare and not to judge, I don't even know where to go with that. It's just everybody has their own ways in which they deal with certain challenging experiences. And what I've noticed is the ones that are grateful for the experience and accept the experience and then discover new tools to adapt to that experience seem to have a much more graceful experience and journey instead of, that I'll leave it at that.
I feel that. I feel that big time. And I think also the more attached we are to the thing that will crumble, the more it's going to hurt. And so what we're getting again is acceptance, and trust is a really big one. Same thing when I've lost, even recently, I shared this on an interview not long ago, but I had a really tough experience where I didn't see my son for 4.5 months. I didn't know where he was. I didn't know if he was alive. I didn't know if he was safe. And it was, the police was looking for them. It was horrible. And I sat within the awareness of, how am I creating this? What is the lesson? What is the gift? And what I discerned was, this is for me to grieve. I had grieved what I experienced when I was young and found my brother passed away in his room. And I hadn't grieved, what I had taken on epigenetically from my mum, which was the grief. And so I sat with grief and I grieved and I cried and I cried and I cried for 4 months, man. I haven't cried that much since I believe I was a teenager. But I sat with it gracefully as much as I could, and I leaned into it, and I tried not to avoid it, and I just sat with it, and I just prayed, and I just sent my love, and now he's returned home, and I'm a full-time dad, I'm a single dad, and so for whatever the blessings or the challenges that was there, I feel you in what you're sharing, and I think this is really powerful because I think the ego loves being attached to the, speaking for myself, to the status and the success and the money and the businesses. But if that crumbles, who am I then? And this is such an important thing to consider. And you mentioned something powerful. You said something along the lines of, well, when that went away, what I had was my health, right? What I had was my body, a healthy body. People struggle with mental disease and suffering these days, but I had good health. And so sometimes I believe that we put up on the pedestal some of the things that are, not important and perhaps artificial. And we sometimes take for granted this incredible gift, which is abundant health. So when that disappears or something disappears, how attached are you to it? And where are you able to count your blessings in the moment of what you have? Because I'd rather lose 2 million followers on Instagram or whatever it is instead of my mental health or even my physical health. So, wow. Thanks for dropping that in. We've got a couple of last questions for you. We've got 10 minutes. Question number one of the three last ones. I got 3 last ones. One, what's the top lesson that you wish you knew, say 10 years ago or when you were younger? The top lesson, the top one thing that you wish you knew.
Everything is always perfect because it can't be any other way. Wherever you are now is exactly perfect because your life story and the choices you've made have absolutely been perfect to where you are right now. All the struggles, all the challenges, all the heartaches, all the celebrations, all the love, all the anger, all the frustration, whatever it may be, is absolutely perfect because you've made all your decisions to get to this point here. And you couldn't have made it any other way because you didn't. And it's something that it took me a long time to get to that point. And I'm grateful to be in that space now because, again, everything that happens is when I can reside in that space. So this is absolutely perfect, even though I would like this to happen and it hasn't happened. I'm like, fuck, why isn't this happening? Yeah, like just get back into it's all perfect.
Bitcoin is not yet on the balance sheet. Bitcoin is soon to be on the balance sheet.
I mean, we have the crystal ball and we don't have the crystal ball. It's that duality. It's that paradox. It's that mystery, and I love it because it fucking just I love the mystery of it all, but at the same time, I still want to know what's going to happen. And then when I catch myself in that space, I'm like, fucking let it go. Just enjoy the mystery. It's like when you pick up a new book, I'm reading this great book at the moment, and every page is just filling me with wonder because I do not know what's going to happen.
Well, you got to tell us what the name of the book is then, because there'll be curiosity now.
It's called Hyperion by Dan Simmons, and it's a science fiction book. But it's written so, one of the best wordsmiths I've come across. But I put that into my life as much as I can. Like, what's the next day? What's the next day or next page in your life going to be? And if I can go back into the analogy of the book, I do not know where this book is heading. It's a mystery. And I love that. Imagine if I knew how this story would end. I wouldn't read it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as my life. I do not know how long I'm going to live for. It's a mystery. I'm excited about what unfolds each and every day. I'm excited about the graceful synchronicities, and I'm also grateful for the chaotic challenges that I am creating as well for myself. So going back to your question, I think stepping into that space of everything is perfect. It always will be. It always has to be. And that can be debated, but that's where I like to bring myself back to when I get a little ahead of myself.
Yeah, well, yeah, it can be debated. It can absolutely be picked apart. However, it's your choice. And if you're choosing that that's your reality, you're choosing that that's your frequency, you're choosing that that's what you're creating, emanating, that feels to me like a peaceful place. So again, yeah, it can be debated intellectually. That's not the point. The point is that this is your choice and your reality. So listeners and viewers, what do you choose to focus on today? What do you choose to bring about today? What do you choose to feel today? If we are in complete acceptance and gratitude that everything is perfect the way it is, it doesn't mean that we stand by and allow people to walk all over us. It means that we are in acceptance of what cannot be changed, in love and gratitude of what cannot be changed. This is my perception. And again, I might be wrong, but I just wondered what reality, listeners, viewers, what you're choosing today. Take a moment just to tune into that. And so that's beautiful, brother. Second last question. What is the number one thing that you feel is most important right now to teach our children? For example, what is the number one most important thing that you've taught your children that you believe parents out there need to know?
Oh, 2 books I would recommend. One is called Being Human by Martin W. Ball. And the second one is by an old friend of mine who's recently passed away, Rudolf Eckhart, The Truth of Love and Fear. Both of them have explored the idea of what it is to be a parent or a guardian and the impact that we have on children. And I don't want to belittle what the amazing words that these 2 men have put into these books, but my perception is to get away as much as possible and do not try to turn them into little versions of you, because they are not you. They are completely unique with their own infinite potential. So, and I do not wish to give advice, but I will invite people to consider their children as beings of infinite potential that will create their own masterpiece, as we all have and are doing in this reality. And for some, that might be the children going off the rails to discover what that experience is. Right? I went off the rails. I'm so grateful that I went off the rails to explore that. Yeah. And there's many reasons why I did. But yeah, so obviously as a parent, unconditional love, whatever that may be. Unconditioned means we do not put conditions onto the love that we share to our children, no matter how they behave or act or their own belief systems. Doesn't mean we cannot guide and provide safety and security and shelter and words of wisdom or actions in which they can observe. They're always observing. But it means potentially not molding them into what we believe good little boys and girls should be.
Yeah. Wow. Powerful, man. Okay, you got 2 books there. We'll put the names of those books in the show notes. Last question for you as we wrap it up. Please, sir, I want you now to imagine that you are on the world stage. Every sentient being alive has gathered, watching, tuning in. When you're ready, take a breath and do share. What is your message to the world right now?
Oh, that's an easy one. Just be you. Be you in all your unique genius, whatever that may be, and trust in your intuition. Trust in that inner voice that knows exactly the choices that resonate deeply in coherence with who you are.
Beautiful. Where do people go to learn more about you? Can you tell us about your cookbooks?
Instagram is great. I share a lot of recipes on Instagram, Chef Pete Evans, if you want to check that out. So, yeah.
And the books that are coming out, will they be on Amazon, for example? Where can we get the cookbooks, man? I'm sure people now are starting to get, at least a lot of our followers and viewers, the fact that, you know, how it's created has a lot of impact in the way the frequency is embedded into it. So the way you would have made your cookbooks, I know, is going to be with a lot of love. So just tell us a little bit about where we can get some of these cookbooks and where else to go outside of Instagram.
Yeah, pretty much Amazon. And I know people have their own viewpoints about Amazon, whatever it may be. But for some reason, that's where I've ended up, and grateful for that. Thank you, Amazon, and the publishers, and different bookstores. The last couple of books, my Bitcoin book called The Primal Code is, it's over there. But I self-published that, so that's cheap as a digital copy on iBooks and Kindle, or it's expensive if you want to print it because it's print on demand. And Healthy Food for Healthy Kids is a lot cheaper, but you have to get it from America. So the shipping at the moment, the shipping costs are pretty big. But you know, for under $100, there's some pretty good information in there if you're willing to go down, if you want to go down that path, not willing, but if you're keen to explore. Otherwise, just jump on my Instagram. Everything's free on there, and you'll get the gist.
Appreciating you. It's great to see you again, Pete. Your smile is always beautiful. And as the first thing I said before we start recording, I said, "I bet you look 10 years younger than the last time we spoke." So whatever you're doing is working. And yeah, peace be with you and the family, brother. It's been a blessing to chat with you again. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thank you so much. Love you. And thank you to everybody that's out there listening and watching. And love you too. Have a great day.
Love you too, bro. This is Pete Evans, everybody.